Have you ever wondered how someone can hold your hand, look you in the eye, swear they'd stay forever, and then vanish as if none of it ever mattered? Not even a warning, not even a goodbye that made sense. One moment, you're their entire world. The next, you're left trying to breathe in a space they once filled. But what if I told you forever was never about time? It was about truth, and the truth is, some people only show up to taste your light, not to stay in your storm. In this video, we're going to unravel the quiet lies, the emotional exits, and the haunting silence that follows a promise broken. Stay with me, because this is going to heal something inside you that no one else has dared to touch. The illusion of forever when promises are just echoes they told you forever. They whispered it like it was carved into the sky, like the stars themselves witnessed the vow. And in that moment you believed it, not because you were foolish, but because your heart was honest. You gave them all of you, not out of weakness, but out of a beautiful strength only few possess, the ability to love without conditions. But here's what the world doesn't warn you about. Not everyone who promises forever actually understands what it means. To some, it's a word soaked in emotion but emptied of responsibility. They say it in the warmth of a moment, in the heat of connection, but they don't realize that forever isn't measured in days, it's measured in actions. You held on, thinking they meant every word. You believed they saw in you what you saw in them. But sometimes, people speak from a place of temporary need, not eternal intention. They want you in that moment, yes, but the moment is all they know. You, on the other hand, were building a future in your mind, while they were only decorating the present. And when the present stopped giving them comfort, they left. Not because you weren't enough, but because they never planned to stay when things required effort. The illusion of forever is this: it's not always a lie, but often it's a truth spoken by someone who doesn't yet know their own limits. They say forever the same way they say I'm fine, or I'll never hurt you, because in that moment they mean it. But time is the truest test. It reveals who can actually carry the weight of what they promised when their feelings fade, when reality intrudes, when comfort turns to inconvenience. What hurts the most isn't that they left. It's that you believed forever was sacred. It's that you built your trust around a promise that was never designed to last. And still, this pain is not your shame. It's their immaturity echoing through your life like a ghost. You didn't lose someone who understood forever. You lost someone who only understood the moment. Let that sink in. Their absence doesn't prove your worthlessness. It proves their unreadiness. It proves that not every beautiful beginning is meant to be a lasting chapter. You didn't fail, you just believed, and real belief is never the enemy. So take this illusion and let it shatter. Let the pieces fall, because from that broken glass you will learn to build a reality stronger than their fantasy. A life no longer waiting for someone to keep a promise they never even understood. The exit was already inside the entry. Silent goodbyes begin early. They didn't leave suddenly. That moment when they walked out, when the messages slowed down, when their eyes stopped lighting up in your presence, it wasn't the beginning. It was the final scene of a story they had started editing long before you noticed. You remember the first "I'll always be here," don't you? You held on to it like an anchor. But now, looking back, you can see it. The hesitation in their voice, the quick glances away, the way they smiled but their soul stayed silent. The truth is, people rarely walk away all at once. They leave emotionally, piece by piece, while you're still clinging to the illusion that nothing's changed. Their body stays, but their spirit retreats. And by the time they physically exit, you've already been abandoned countless times in 1,000 invisible ways. Every moment they stopped listening, every time your hurt was met with silence, every broken plan, every "I forgot" that sounded too practiced, they were already leaving. Most people don't know how to say "I'm fading," so they pretend. They wear the mask of presence while they quietly dismantle the bond you thought was unbreakable. You were loyal to a ghost, still setting the dinner table for someone who had emotionally packed up months ago. And when they finally left, it felt sudden only to you, because your love was still alive, but theirs had been running on autopilot, long out of fuel. And this is the quiet cruelty. It's not betrayal in a loud, dramatic form. It's betrayal in whispers, in withdrawal, in the slow erosion of care that no one warns you about. But don't blame yourself. You were honest. You were trying. You were loyal even when the silence grew louder than their promises. You believed in what you had, even when they started looking elsewhere with their heart while their body remained next to you. The truth is, they never had the courage to admit they were done, so instead, they made you feel like the one who was too much, too emotional, too intense, but all you really were was present, and in a world full of half-present people, that kind of presence often goes unrecognized, until it's gone. So when they left, understand this, the goodbye didn't begin at the door. It began in those overlooked moments where love started to dry up. You just didn't want to see it, because you loved too deeply to imagine someone would stay while already planning their exit. But now you know. Now you can look back and recognize the signs you missed, not to blame yourself, but to never ignore your own inner voice again, because the next time someone's body stays but their heart begins to drift, you will feel it. And this time, you won't wait for the door to slam shut to set yourself free. The mirror of need and the mask of love. When attachment pretends to be devotion, they didn't love you, they needed you. And there's a difference so subtle, so disguised, that most people never see it until they're left standing in the wreckage of what once felt like love. In the beginning, their attention felt like sunlight. It warmed every wounded part of you. Their words were intense, their presence overwhelming in the best way. They clung to you, praised you, made you feel irreplaceable. But slowly, something began to shift. Their warmth began to cool when you needed them back. Their excitement dimmed the moment you stopped filling their emptiness. That's when the truth began to surface. It wasn't love. It was survival. They didn't see you, they saw what you could do for them. You were their mirror. You made them feel strong, valued, important. You validated something fragile inside them, and as long as you played that role, they stayed close. But when you had a need of your own, when your love required reciprocation, not just performance, they pulled away. Because love, real love, isn't about what we can extract, it's about what we can sustain. And they weren't ready for that. They wore the mask of love so well. The soft touches, the late night confessions, the promises stitched with trembling voices. But underneath it all was a craving for control, for emotional security they couldn't provide themselves. So they latched onto you, mistaking comfort for commitment. And when they'd taken all they could, when your presence no longer filled their void, they withdrew, not with cruelty, but with distance, with detachment. And that detachment was more painful than any loud betrayal, because it made you question if the love was ever real. And here's the hard part. In their own way, they thought it was real, because need feels like love when you've never learned the difference. But now you know, now you see clearly. You weren't too much, you weren't too needy. You simply stopped feeding a hunger that was never yours to fill. They didn't leave because you changed. They left because your reflection no longer served their self-image. And while it hurts, it also frees you, because real love won't drain you. It won't demand that you shrink so someone else can feel whole. Real love meets you where you are, and builds from there. So take off the blame. Step away from the mirror they used, and when you love again, let it be with someone who sees you, not their own brokenness reflected back, because you are not a crutch. You are not a lifeline for someone drowning in their own emptiness. You are a soul meant to be met, not used. And next time, you'll know the difference. Forever was too heavy for their shoulders when loyalty demands more than emotion, they said forever. But they didn't know what it cost. Not in effort, not in patience, not in the invisible daily choices that hold two people together when the magic begins to fade. You see, some people are fluent in feelings, but illiterate in commitment. They know how to feel intensely, but they've never learned how to stay consistently. They think loyalty is a feeling when in truth it's a discipline. It's what remains when excitement fades and life gets inconvenient. And that's where they failed you, not in the beginning. No, in the beginning they were perfect, enthusiastic, present, overflowing with affection, but beginnings require no effort. It's easy to be kind when everything is new. The true weight of forever is only revealed over time, in the hard moments, in the quiet stretches, in the sacrifice of ego for the sake of understanding. And when those moments came, they didn't know how to carry it. It's not that they were cruel, it's that they were untrained. No one ever taught them that real connection demands more than emotion. It demands endurance, because love isn't just passion, it's persistence. And they didn't have it. They mistook consistency for boredom. They confused emotional safety with lack of spark. And instead of building something strong, they went looking for something new, something easier, something that didn't require depth. The truth is, forever frightened them, not because they didn't care, but because they were never shown how to care long term. They were shaped by a world that chases moments, not roots. So when the time came to water the roots, to sit through the storms, to stay when things got hard, they walked. Or worse, they slowly stopped showing up while pretending nothing had changed. You watched them grow colder, less involved. And you kept holding on, believing it was just a phase. But it wasn't. It was the unraveling of a promise they were never strong enough to keep. And that's the part no one tells you. Some people don't leave because you're unworthy. They leave because they're unready. They leave because the weight of being steady, being true, being present was too heavy for their shoulders, and they thought if they just stayed long enough, they might grow strong enough, but they didn't. And so they slipped away, not in a storm, but in silence, leaving you to carry the weight alone. But here's your strength. You did carry it. You were ready. You were loyal. And one day, someone whose soul is trained for depth will meet you there. Not just in the easy times, but in the ordinary ones, the testing ones, the quiet, necessary, loyal ones, because forever isn't made of words. It's made of daily choices, and you, unlike them, were strong enough to choose it. Their goodbye was your awakening when losing them meant finding yourself. They thought leaving you would break you, that you'd fall apart, beg for answers, question your worth. Maybe you did for a moment. Because losing someone you loved, especially after they promised forever, feels like having the air ripped from your lungs. But what they never expected was that their goodbye would become the very thing that woke you up. You see, their absence created silence, and in that silence you finally heard your own voice again, the one that had been drowned out by trying to keep the relationship alive, the one that had whispered doubts while you ignored the red flags. Their leaving felt like abandonment, but it was really liberation in disguise, because when someone walks away after promising to stay, what they reveal isn't your weakness, it's their truth. It's their inability to match the strength you gave so freely. They didn't break you. They showed you how deeply you could survive. And slowly, painfully, beautifully, you started to reclaim the pieces of yourself that you gave away too quickly. You started to remember who you were before the promises, before the illusion, before the version of you that was built to keep them happy. Their goodbye stripped away the illusion. No more pretending, no more hoping they'd return and be different. They left, and in doing so, they opened a door to your becoming. The nights you cried, they built resilience. The mornings you woke up feeling empty, they carved out space for something better. The confusion, it taught you clarity, because healing isn't about forgetting them. It's about remembering yourself, and that's what their departure gave you, the chance to meet yourself again, to rebuild without performing, to stop loving people who only love you in fragments. The pain didn't destroy you. It focused you. It brought you back to your boundaries, your worth, your dignity. You learned that some people will only love you as long as you're easy to love. But the ones who matter, they'll stay when you're human, when you're growing, when you're not perfect. And so, their leaving wasn't the end of your story. It was the end of a chapter you had outgrown. Yes, they left, but in doing so, they handed you the pen. Now you write, you rise, you no longer wait at doors that close themselves. You no longer beg for explanations from people who were never built for depth. And one day, they'll look back and realize they didn't walk away from someone ordinary. They walked away from someone rare, someone loyal, someone real. But by then, you won't be waiting. You'll be too busy building the life that their absence made possible. Because sometimes the worst good, bye, is really just the beginning of your greatest awakening.